welcome and Happy New Year. Today we're going to rewind 2014 and look at the year that was. All the big announcements, the controversies and everything that shaped the business of brands last year. The biggest story that carried forward from 2013 was of course the big international M&A, the formation of the Publicis Omnicom Group, which would have created the world's largest communications holding company. In May, however, that deal was called off, citing challenges including slow progress. Here's a recap of that.
We have done a lot of deals, but this one has a lot of reason to exist. The most important one is that it's an excellent combination for our clients. We have to think first about the client, what this new world is creating as issues for our client, and we believe that this combination is something which will help them coping with all the changes which are happening in this world, and particularly with the internet giants. So this is something which has a lot of good reason.
The marketplace has moved and it's changing. It changes every day now, whereas in truth, up till 10 years ago, it didn't change very rapidly. You had time to absorb the changes, intellectualize them, re-educate your people. Now changes are instantaneous, and this gives us the combined resources plus an array of assets that we can service every client need, and we'll be terribly nimble at the same time in being able to shift to changes in the marketplace.
9 months after it was first announced, the $35 billion merger between Publicis Group and Omnicom Group was called off in May. In a joint statement, the two holding companies said, and I quote, "The challenges that still remain to be overcome, in addition to the slow pace of progress, created a level of uncertainty detrimental to the interests of both groups and their employees, clients and shareholders." This historic merger would have ousted WPP from the top of the global holding company ranks. The Publicis Omnicom Group would have also led the stakes in the effectiveness as well as the creativity race if the measure is number of awards won. That announcement was almost as surprising as the proposal of the deal itself. WPP CEO Sir Martin Sorrell was of course having the last laugh. Listen in to what he said. After the Publicis Omnicom Group collapse, what form and shape
they
will we
haven't collapsed to be.
Okay.
You see, and again, this is.
Okay.
I mean, I wish they had, but they haven't.
I meant the merger. I mean the group, the Publicis
POG.
Omnicom Group that would have. I mean,
A dead POG
fell
is better
through.
than a live POG.
In what form will we see consolidation? Because this
Well,
was
I think there are two. You know, there are two possibilities at the moment. Now, we never thought the POG was a glint in Maurice's or John's eyes,
Yeah.
but it was. So God knows what else is happening here. But you know, because this time last year, John was climbing the back stairs in the Carlton Hotel to see Maurice secretly, and maybe actually that's part of the problem, because the two of them tried to negotiate this deal with what they said no expensive advisors, and maybe they should have had expensive advisors because it showed.
For Publicis Group, though, all was not lost. After the 2013 revamp in India, the French holding company bought independent agency Law & Kenneth, which took over Saatchi & Saatchi's Indian management and set up a new entity, L&K Saatchi & Saatchi. Here are the details. In January, 11-year-old 400-employee strong Indian full-service agency with services clients including Renault, Godrej, ITC and Idea joined hands with Saatchi & Saatchi to set up L&K Saatchi & Saatchi. The new group, which is estimated to have revenues of around 100 crore rupees, will have Praveen Kenneth as the co-owner, chairman and managing director of the new group.
First, it's not an acquisition per se, because with Praveen, it cannot be an acquisition. Praveen is very independent, he's an entrepreneur, he's somebody who I know since many, many years. He has been working at Publicis. He started at Publicis and he has grown with Publicis, and then he went to Law & Kenneth. And the way it will work is that Praveen will be in charge of both Law & Kenneth and Saatchi & Saatchi. And we have taken a majority because we want to be clear, and we are now working in making sure that this will be a fantastic operation for this market.
This is indeed a great day for all of us at Law & Kenneth. The fact remains that Law & Kenneth has come a long way over the last 11 years. And as we stand today, the amazing brand called Saatchi & Saatchi has got a great reputation globally. The real challenge is to make the reputation really relevant in the Indian context as we stand today.
The Law & Kenneth buyout continued Publicis India's aggressive acquisition spree and did manage to get its rivals to sit up and take notice. Now, the other big news of 2014 was around audience measurement in print and television. Let's start with the Indian Readership Survey, or IRS, which was introduced with a new look in January. Its top-line findings were hotly contested by a few media companies who saw their readership decline across various markets. IRS 2013 was suspended for revalidation and to incorporate recommendations. Finally, in August, that voluntary abeyance was lifted. Here's how it unfolded. It was a big day for the 21,000 crore rupee print industry. The metric, which measures the publication's readership and in turn determines how advertising is bought and sold, was finally revamped. Mandated by the Media Research Users Council, or MRUC, and conducted by AC Nielsen, the new Indian Readership Survey, or IRS, was unveiled in January, but was met with mixed responses.
A lot of television advertising could potentially come into print because you are seeing newspapers like Hindustan Times, both happen to be from our fold, which have both grown, which is really good news. It allows us to take up yield, to your question, because previously we have been in an investment mode, increasing copies, increasing readership, but that was still not being captured. Now with the new IRS data, a lot of that has got captured. So we will be able to push up the rates in those markets and to national marketeers. So both should be good news.
If one looks at the results, I think it throws in a lot of contrasts and anomalies. For example, let's take English readership as a whole. There has been a huge decline of 3.5 million readers who have eroded from English print category. It's huge considering that this is 20% of the entire readership base. And interestingly, if you look at it, West has grown, but the other three zones have lost readership. So who's going to explain as to why Karnataka or why Mumbai have shown such large increases in English readership, and why other zones and other cities like Chennai, Calcutta, Hyderabad have all declined?
After a group of 18 publishers questioned the findings and stated their intent to unsubscribe from the IRS, the RSCI and the MRUC suspended the new IRS.
After the results came out, we felt the need to revalidate data, and unfortunately the publishers and the media buying agencies, the mistake that they have made is continue to compare these results with IRS 12. We genuinely felt that maybe there are some areas that need a relook, so we want to revalidate, which we would have done irrespective of whether publishers wrote in to withdraw their mastheads or not.
The process of revalidation extended till August, when the suspension was finally lifted.
Now what is happening is that the last usable data that we have pertains to fieldwork that we actually closed in December of 2013. We are now in September, very nearly, of 2014. So we are already 9 months out. And you're 9 months out at a time when it is reasonable to say that the market is a far more dynamic market in each of the media, and print no less. So there is an issue. The issue is that the data is a little more aged than we would like it to be. Second, the fieldwork continued, although we had this series of issues starting from January. The fieldwork went on until we completed Q1. So we did Q1
March 31st.
Till about March, April, we concluded that fieldwork. So we have that fieldwork, right? So at some level, we are in a position to do a synthetic 3 quarters from 2013, club it with this, and give one report for 2014 Q1. But after that, we've now had half a year of interrupted fieldwork. We've not done any fieldwork at all. So Nielsen's been asked to lay low. So if we were to get back into field now, it would be after a massive interruption. I have no continuity in the data. And personally speaking, this is something for the RSCI and the MRC board and the TechCom to deliberate. But personally, I would be very, very anxious tagging on any new fieldwork from today to the last fieldwork which was interrupted in March.
Right.
So yes, there are indications of a solution to the IRS mess, but the fact is that audience measurement in the Indian media industry is not simple. The Broadcast Audience Research Council, or BARC, which is supposed to be up and running, has postponed its launch date. Listen in to what the BARC CEO Partha Dasgupta had to say.
These meters, when they go in, I mean, it's not dead meters, these are live meters. Okay, our backend infrastructure here, where the servers where it's being pinged, all the data comes back, is already up and running. So we will keep on seeing this data. By the time we are at a position that where the 22,000 meters are already laid out, and we are seeing the data, and we see that the data looks good after validation. We don't want to take any chances of or rushing into giving out the data commercially. At that point of time, we will take a call of going commercial and launch the data the way it should be. But till that point of time, we will see enough amount of data, our experts will see enough amount of data to say whether it is worth going to the market with, or if not, does it need any tweaking.
So BARC is looking at March for its launch. We will be keeping tabs on that. Keeping with measurement, we also caught up with Mindshare's R. Gautaman, who told us that the traditional definitions of demographics no longer work for media agencies or advertisers. Here's Mindshare betting big on big data and taste graphs for better targeting. Listen in.
We invariably go down to male, female, age, income and occupation, right? So these four variables are no longer the relevant variable to target the consumer to make him buy a product, whether it is a soap or a shampoo or a television or a phone or any one of these consumer durables. Because those are now becoming such standard wallpaper definitions. It's becoming very difficult to sharply define the consumer. Whereas if I take another cut to say the same consumer, what does he like? Which movies he watches? What kind of restaurants he goes and has his food, who is influencing him, who are the followers he is following on Twitter, what are his friends doing in Facebook, and even in Facebook, what are his other groups he is interacting with. So we are shifting away from those four variables, which is commonly used as standard demographics, is completely losing its relevance. And we are finding it difficult even to develop a media plan to really show its ROI, to say I've used this TG definition, I've developed a media plan, and all plans look the same set of television, same set of publications and newspapers and magazines and radio and even digital sites. We are using this same demographic definition to choose a portal or a site. It is now not showing, all our econometric analysis have shown lesser and lesser impact of this. Where if I shift the game and start communicating to my consumer basis his likes or preferences or whatever it is, we see more traction to the communication. The response from him is more measurable. I'm able to attribute return on investment in a much better manner because I'm able to understand his likes, his interest to purchase, his point of purchase behavior a lot better. So that's the fundamental shift we are taking in this.
So those were some of the big stories of last year. We're going to take a short break here. When we come back, insights from some of the biggest names in the business. Welcome back. You're watching a storyboard special on the year that was. What also made 2014 special was a host of interviews we were able to line up. From where India's booming e-commerce sector is headed, to the challenges faced by advertising business holding companies, to how brands are embracing digital, we were able to get perspectives from the biggest names in the business. Here's a recap of the best soundbites on Storyboard last year.
This business is actually, we see growth in this business in 2014. We're anticipating organic growth in the range of 3 to 4%, and we're expecting for 2014 to expand our margins by at least 100 basis points.
For us is remaining who we are, the largest media agency brand in the world. We want to build on our DNA, which is based on innovation, is based on creativity, is based on the only KPI that we can measure in that area, which is awards. Because how do you measure innovation? The only way we have is, do we win more awards than anybody else in the world? If we do, then we know that the quality of our work is competitive versus a benchmark set by the competition.
First and foremost, the growth of digital video is huge. So it's actually, we believe, kind of the future of TV, video coming together is pretty spectacular for some of our brands. But I think where the biggest unlock is, and where a lot of marketers haven't focused, is really on that mobile space. So I think when you look at mobility and you look at the products that we sell, they're really impulse-driven products. And so how do I begin to use mobile to drive those impulse purchases? This is the first time ever that we've had a device that is with the consumer throughout their entire consumer journey, and by the way, close to that point of buying.
Customers would shop at any place until the very moment they find a better customer experience elsewhere.
Okay.
So I think what matters to consumers is the selection that they get on the website, how much of that selection is available to be shipped to them immediately. They care about the low prices and the overall value that the website provides in terms of convenience and so on. And they care about fast and reliable delivery experience.
If you take last year specifically, what you're talking about, PepsiCo worked closely with Mr. Sunil Gavaskar as well as Sundar. And Mr. Gavaskar was very, very good in charting out a very clear path in terms of saying this is acceptable, this is not acceptable. For example, the number of briefings he did with the team. One of the things we realized was that we had to communicate to the audience that people play for the pride of cricket as opposed to the money in cricket. So you saw all the cricket ambassador videos, Anil Kumble, Lakshman, Dravid, etc., who are urging people to say, this is not about money, this is beyond money.
Okay.
So that kind of collaboration between PepsiCo and the BCCI was very, very, very good, and full marks to Mr. Gavaskar, Sundar and BCCI for really ensuring that we had an outstanding tournament completely free of controversy last year. And I think the game can only get better, and PepsiCo is very, very clear. We uphold integrity in every single thing we do, and we'd like the game to be really played in the way.
I think they are, and the reason I say that is if I think back probably 3-4 years ago, I remember a really interesting meeting where we had just won a very new client who came to us and said, I want to move everything I do into digital. I want digital to be the majority of how I spend my money. And I don't think clients are saying that anymore. And the reason they're not saying that anymore is that's a trap you fall into. Digital is really, we live in a digital world. The world's digital. Technology is what we're using.
So definitely as Flipkart, we have always grown in a competitive environment. We are a 7-year-old company. We have had international and local competition in existence even much before we started. In the short term, definitely you can, the amount of cash that you have in bank makes a difference in how much discounts you can give. But in the long term, the discounts that you provide to the customers will completely be driven by how much efficient you are. If you're not efficient in your supply chain and your costs are high, you will not be able to provide big discounts.
To tell you honestly, most of my associates in endorsement, most of my partners, most of my employers, very, very clearly have they tell me about the business. I had a 1-hour discussion with everyone when I came in, and I feel very excited to know how the company is doing because they've put my name on their company, and I owe it to them to understand that, listen, is it okay? The first thing is business good? And it's not because of me, it's because the car is great. But they put my face there. So they explained to me that, yeah, this much was, I don't even understand it. But I think it's my duty, it's part of my job to know how much Dish TV is selling. How is it working in connectivity? Is it in small towns or big towns? Some of it just goes over my head. But I think it's my duty to be as excited about their business, which I don't understand. But it is my duty to understand. So I sit down and I try and understand as much as I can. And then I just come and say, okay, God's been good. The product is wonderful. It's taking me along. Let me put my best foot forward. And hopefully, not even once do I feel any product has done good because of me. I think somewhere down the line, I've just been given an opportunity to take a wonderful product and package it. I'm just the packaging, Shah Rukh Khan, kaun si gaadi? Maybe it just helps like that. I'm something that gets noticed. I'm the bell, ting ting, what happened? Oh, Hyundai. So it's like that. So I sit for that, but not for the enactment part. That's my job. That I'm an actor, that I'll do. I'm very proud to say, even if it sounds arrogant, I can act a bit.
Now, those were just some of the big names we had on the show last year. You can catch all those interviews and more on YouTube. With that, it's a wrap on this year-end special. Next week, we'll be back with our regular show. Until then, thanks for watching.